Hello, and welcome back to Manufacturing Matters Jackson, the first and only podcast dedicated to celebrating and supporting and highlighting the manufacturing community of Jackson County, Michigan. My name is Keith Gillenwater, and I'm the president and CEO of Accelerate Jackson County.
And I'm Olivia Steele, Executive Director of Jackson Area Manufacturers Association.
And this is, I think, Olivia, our fourth episode now of Manufacturing Matters.
It is, yeah. And it's getting easier and easier every time, for sure.
It's getting easier and easier each time we do this. And I got to say, I have enjoyed this process. And I think back, to that first episode when we had the table sitting on the other side of the room and we had written out a script. And I know how... I still think the episode was good, but it certainly seemed unnatural. And then I also remember one of the takes that we had, because we had the swivel chairs that we were sitting in, and we're kind of, going back and forth and that kind of thing. So thinking from that episode to where we're at now, I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So what's new in the world of JAMA?
Oh, what isn't new? So, we've been working on the building. We finally got, I think, most of the electrical work done and HVAC work, and the floor guys are in, polishing up the floor. So moving along in the new building, which is exciting. We have lots of events coming up. April 23rd, we have a lunch and learn at Orbit Forum for a tour, so that's exciting.
Nice.
We have April 24th, we have Bank of America presenting an automotive outlook with S&P Global. Of course, May 5th is JAMA's annual dinner, which is exciting, so getting closer for that. Machining U for 9th and 10th graders is open for registration, and that happens in July in partnership with the ShopRat Foundation and, of course, Jackson Area Career Center. And then the trade show for September, registration is open for that, so that's really exciting, and we're working on that and trying to recruit, and, obviously you guys are involved in that, and so we're excited for that event.
I think we'll have hopefully some exciting things going on with the podcast as well around the trade show. I think we're still working on the logistics of it right now, but I think it could be pretty cool with some of the, beyond the trade show itself, some of the events that we do with the trade show. So you and I have obviously been talking about some of those panel discussions and that kind of stuff. Can we broadcast those? And so I think it's a cool opportunity for us.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. And what's happening at Accelerate Jackson?
So a lot going on right now. So we have hit the busy kind of time of the year for us. There's always kind of a cycle you can follow in economic development of when projects die off and when projects start to come back to life and that kind of thing. And we are definitely in it this year. Last year being my first year in the organization, and really my first year in Michigan as well, let alone Accelerate Jackson County. We had a lot of a focus last year on just building relationships and kind of doing a level set for what was the enterprise group or Accelerate Jackson County, and putting into place things like this for this year, like this podcast and that kind of thing. And so this year is really the deep dive into the analysis of the community. And so we have a lot of studies going on right now, or that we're going to be kicking off. So we have a study on foreign direct investment, i.e. foreign companies that are investing, or foreign-owned companies that have invested here. You think about some of the tax and the Mackeys and companies like that have, a Japanese parent company that, they are invested here into this community, but they have a foreign ownership structure. And so looking at some of those kinds of opportunities and how do we grow and expand upon that, looking at some of our target industries, some of our, the kinds of businesses we're trying to recruit, that has to constantly be a moving target, based upon technology, based upon the community. And so we're working through some of that kind of thing. We've got some efforts launched with housing that we'll be launching this year. We're doing some due diligence studies that with a nice day like this, if we can get a couple more of these days, unlike the storms we've had for the last several days, that will allow our surveyors to get out and that kind of stuff, looking at some sites in Jackson County as well. And so we've got a lot of that going on. And we just hosted our annual breakfast as well, which I know you came to. And so when you mentioned the S&P Global person, we had someone from Detroit Regional Partnership who did that S&P Global study. And so, the mobility industry is a big deal for Jackson County, right? So it's we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. And I think my staff is generally happy with the amount of work that I'm throwing at them. I'm guessing they may tell you something different if you were to interview them offline. But this is you and I's podcast, so I can say whatever I want. So.
Well, I'll just tell you, my staff isn't happy with everything we have going on. So,
absolutely.
So they're like, this is overwhelming. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
just a lot going on.
It's funny because Debbie is my vice president. You know Debbie. You worked with in the same office with Debbie when we were all together. Here. Debbie and I just had the conversation this morning based upon another conversation I had yesterday. I'm like, we have to figure out how to take more off of your plate and off of my plate and give it to other staff members because here's what's coming down the pipe, and so it is, it's a real challenge, but I will tell you, I will take busy any day of the week over, the first 2 months of COVID, where you're like, what do we do? That kind of thing.
For sure.
So we have an exciting episode for you today. I'm pretty excited about it. This is the first time we're going to have 2 sets of guests coming in. So we are going to welcome Jacob Hurt from the Region 2 Planning Commission and Steve Trosin from Experience Jackson County, and they're going to talk about the new Southern Michigan Outdoors brand.
Yeah, and then we're going to have Wesley Turner from Mitchell Golf and Josh Clark from Angling AI.
Yeah, and I love this episode today particularly. I think our guests are going to be super exciting to talk about what is a heck of an opportunity for Jackson County, right? Not only from a manufacturing standpoint, which we do really well here and we do better than anybody else, but we also have that 2 businesses that are focusing on making products for the outdoor recreation industry, and then to be able to tie that into the Southern Michigan Outdoors brand that Region 2 is launching here for our region, which is Jackson, Hillsdale, and Lenawee County, to really take advantage and to celebrate the opportunities for outdoor recreation in Southern Michigan, which, abound, right?
Right. But also just celebrating, like, all the different things that manufacturing encompasses, right? And people just don't even realize how much manufacturing Jackson has. And so to be able to recognize the different types of manufacturing that we have right here is incredible. So I'm excited for that.
Well, and I think the other side of that too is when we talk about things like outdoor recreation, that is not a typical thing that you deal with in the course of a day at JAMA. It's certainly not a thing I deal with in the course of an economic development day. But when you extrapolate that out to bigger picture and you talk about getting people outdoors and getting healthy and doing, physical things outside, and then how does that benefit your workforce, right? From not only from a workforce and employee satisfaction, and you get a better worker, right, and a healthy standpoint, but then tying that into the cool manufacturing that we do here. So really excited about this episode today.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
Welcome back to Manufacturing Matters Jackson. I want to acknowledge the elephant in the room. So we are recording with Jacob Hurt, our guest today, to talk about Southern Michigan Outdoors. And we're recording on a different day from when we recorded the first part of our episode. And so just in case anybody wondered if maybe Olivia and I went and did a quick change like we were at the Oscars or something like that, I assure you we do not have that production value to the Manufacturing Matters podcast yet. But
Right.
it is something I think that we should probably set as a goal for ours.
Yeah, I think it's jeans and we get some manufacturing matters shirts made.
That would be probably something we should consider. I was thinking more along the line of suits and evening gowns and things like that.
No.
Okay, maybe not. Probably doesn't fit the theme of manufacturing, celebrating manufacturing and associated industries in Jackson County. So maybe we'll put a pin in it for the idea board for later. So season 2, right?
Yeah.
So we are with our guest Jacob Hurt, with the executive director of the Region 2 Planning Commission,
Correct.
and also to talk about the Southern Michigan Outdoors brand today. So
Right.
Jacob, welcome to Manufacturing Matters Jackson.
Well, thanks for having me and accommodating my schedule.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So I would maybe kick us off and just have you tell us a little bit about maybe Region 2 and what you do, and then specifically roll into the Southern Michigan Outdoors.
Sure. Region 2 Planning Commission is one of 14 regional planning agencies across the state of Michigan. Chartered by state law back from the 40s is really the original one. We cover Jackson, Hillsdale, and Lenawee counties. We've been in our current format, these 3 counties, since 1974. The organization actually started really here in Jackson in the mid-50s and then kind of gradually expanded. But we do transportation, land use, planning, and economic development. We're an economic development district is certified by the Economic Development Administration of the U.S. Department of Commerce. But here in Jackson, one of our primary focuses is we staff the Jackson Area Comprehensive Transportation Study, which is the MPO, or Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is transportation planning. Coordinates federal funding passed through MDOT to locally for federal aid roads. So we do a lot of transportation planning with that. We're finishing up a fiscal year 26 through 29 TIP, or Transportation Improvement Program, right now, which will go into effect, obviously, when the fiscal year starts October 1. And then we do land use. We staff the Jackson County Planning Commission and the Lenawee County Planning Commission. We write master plans, zoning ordinances for our member municipalities. And we do recreation planning. That's kind of DNR formatted. Opens up communities to get DNR recreation grants. And then we do the economic development piece from a planning perspective, which really what we do with that is every 4 or 5 years is write a comprehensive economic development strategy. Or it's called a SEDS. We wrote our most recent one, was adopted in December of 2021, so fiscal year 26, we'll start to write a new one. And so it's really out of that the Southern Michigan Outdoors Initiative, or brand, was kind of born.
Okay.
Can you tell us about Southern Michigan
Sure.
Outdoors?
Sure. So in the SEDS writing efforts, we put together a committee. Enterprise Group at the time, now I know you're Accelerate Jackson County, was represented, as was Lenawee Now and Hillsdale Economic Development Partnership and a couple other key stakeholders. It's a committee of about 15. And through that process, essentially we identified 4 kind of key strategies and some objectives. But the primary driver was we can't go out and attract like large-scale employers. It's difficult for us because we really didn't have the workforce available. And so we knew we needed to do some talent attraction and retention. Previously in Jackson, I was at the Jackson Anchor Initiative, which was a platform for talent attraction using downtown development and redevelopment. So I knew that issue existed regionally. So that's kind of where the Southern Michigan piece was born. Knew we had, through some of our other planning efforts, kind of a broad recreation base in the region of outdoor assets. Obviously, you think of the lakes, kind of first and foremost. And then there's plethora of other assets. So we thought, okay, we can build on the outdoor recreation piece to kind of be that talent driver that attracts and retains, the people we need to fill jobs.
Yeah. So, and I think tying this into our other guests on this episode, we featured a couple of businesses that are active in the rec tech space, right? That are with an outdoors focus, on a recreation focus. And so I thought that this initiative that I've got some familiarity with, and having traveled with you on it a little bit, I thought that it was a good fit for what we're doing. obviously we're a manufacturing focused podcast to celebrate the manufacturing community, to provide assistance to our and as a resource for our manufacturing base. But the thing I really liked about this is because when I think of Southern Michigan Outdoors, I mean, I think obviously you can go with the tourism aspect of it and things like that, but there is a manufacturing component, as we saw with the businesses that we interviewed for this podcast. And then I love the other idea of it is bigger picture, encouraging healthy lifestyles, healthy choices, getting people to use those natural assets we have from not only to help maybe reduce the cost of health insurance and that kind of stuff, but also from a talent attraction standpoint too. And so I don't know if you have anything to add to that. But.
Yeah, so we've worked pretty closely with the Michigan Office of Outdoor Recreation Industry, which has been housed for the last couple of years at MEDC. They've been a great resource for us. That's run by a gentleman named Brad Garman. And really what we've done, and Michigan was one of the first states east of the Mississippi. These kind of statewide offices all started out west, but Michigan was one of the first in 2019 east of the Mississippi to establish this kind of office. And Michigan's office has historically been focused on the industry side of things, given Michigan's manufacturing heritage. And so that really made sense to, we have the asset base in terms of the physical assets in terms of recreation, but, we're known for making things here in this region, in this county. And specifically, we've got a pretty strong focus on prototyping. And so, conversations over the years with the state office, they got really excited about, what we could do in that space, the manufacturing, small batch manufacturing, and how does that plug in? Honestly, that's where we co-opted the RecTech name from. And as we kind of dove deeper into this, there's 5 companies that we kind of hold up as kind of the techie side of the outdoor space. And so it's like really leveraging the fact they're here, that you can do this here, leveraging assets like the Lean Rocket Lab, which, Brandon and Ken have been very helpful through this process. And how do we leverage our strengths on the manufacturing side to really stake our claim in the state, so to speak, in the outdoor recreation industry space. And I know the state is very excited of what we're trying to do and still very high on what we bring to the table. And honestly, we're like one of 3 regions in the state that are really pushing this whole thing forward. It's us, it's the central UP around Marquette, and it's Grand Rapids and Kent County.
Who are your partners in this initiative? Yeah.
So, here locally, it's obviously Keith was able to travel with myself and Ryan Tarrant from the Jackson Chamber, Steve Trosin, who's now at Experience Jackson. We went and down to Bentonville last fall, met with a lot of key stakeholders down there to really learn how they did it, because they're kind of the mountain biking capital of North America, and they've really leaned into that space. And that was really a talent attraction piece for Walmart and their suppliers, who were having a lot of trouble getting people to kind of do their 2-year tour at the suppliers through Northwest Arkansas. And obviously, you've got Walton money, so that makes a big difference. But they still had to have the vision. They still had to execute it. So Keith and Ryan at the Chamber and Steve now at Experience Jackson, the 4 of us went down last fall. So obviously, that's our key kind of core group of players. Lean Rocket Lab have been very helpful and instrumental and willing to do pretty much whatever we kind of come up with, or harebrained ideas with us. Got a gentleman from the National Park Service whose office in Lansing. He actually lives here in Jackson. He's been a guy named Patrick Lighton. He's been instrumental since the beginning as well. He's a landscape architect. We've been able to do some of their programming through the National Park Service, some of their trail programming in terms of providing some expertise. And then kind of more regionally, Visit Lenawee, Lenawee Now, and Hillsdale Economic Development Partnership, and even the Irish Hills Chamber have all been helpful for various things.
Nice. How did you? I love the brand idea. I love the brand Southern Michigan Outdoors that Jackson County and Lenawee and Hillsdale, but Jackson County is owning that, right? I love because that has some broad. You can go a lot of ways with that, right? I love that. So maybe talk around some of the marketing strategies and like maybe specific to the marketing strategies, but also maybe bigger picture, like where we're at and where you're going to go with it.
Sure.
Like where do you see it going?
Yeah. We as we got started in this, as a regional planning agency, we're kind of flying under the radar, have an important role, but still not a lot of people think about us. And so we're thinking, okay, we cannot push this out there as Region 2 because they're going to, where in the world is Region 2? Kind of illustrate that, we're like an MEDC Region 9, which includes 3 other counties. And talking about Brad Garman earlier from the state office, he would mention he's working with Region 2, and people were thinking he was talking up in Northwest Michigan around Traverse City, and he's like, no, I'm talking around Jackson. So we knew we had to do something. Right. So we had engaged a marketing firm, and just kind of throwing names out there, and Southern Michigan was available. So we're like, well, we're going to own that. We're not Southeast Michigan, we're not Southwest Michigan, we're going to be Southern Michigan.
Right.
And I mean, it fits. And that was just easier to brand and put the message out to the world than like Region 2 Planning Agency Outdoors, So that's kind of where that came from. We do have a website, southernmichiganoutdoors.com, which is kind of a clearinghouse. That's a living site, obviously. We've got some other initiatives underway that'll be fed into that. And then kind of where we're going, we kind of run into 3 kind of key categories. You've got the rec tech piece, which I say is kind of what you think about when you think traditional economic development. You got an event piece, which is kind of like more get people to town in the area, see what we have. They'll come back. We helped get the Road to Hell gravel race started a couple years ago. That was Steve's idea. Ran out of, ideally we were going to start it in downtown Jackson and go up to Hell and back, but logistically that didn't work, so it started at Waterloo. And the feedback we heard after the first race from that was, people from the other west side of the state came over to ride, but they didn't know we had the kind of roads we have here, the gravel roads, and said, we'll be back to train. We'll be back and do training rides. The Airbnbs are so cheap. We can make a weekend of it, no big deal. So that's kind of the event piece. Now, I know Experience Jackson's got an event on the horizon this fall, which should be another big draw. And we've got probably 25 events across multiple sport platforms that go on annually. And then the final piece is the talent attraction piece, which is really our place-based, quality of life, quality of place. What kind of infrastructure improvements in the rec space do we need to make, like adding trails, rail trails, or soft surface trails, things like that. So that's kind of how we focus our energies in those 3 kind of key categories and branch off from there.
Just a point of clarification for me as the non-Michigander, I guess there's 2 non-Michiganders in the room as we speak, but you said the Road to Hell and back. I'm assuming that is Hell, Michigan?
Hell, Michigan, yes.
Okay,
yes.
So show me, somebody has to show me where that's at, because when you first said that, I was like, we're taking the race to Hell? I was like, I don't know that we're trying to do that. That's funny.
Yeah, that, it's, that was a good experience, and the promoters are out of Grand Rapids. They own a couple other races out of Waterloo. They do 3 races here. They'd like to expand and do more. They're they're going in their 4th year of that race, so they draw about 500 riders for that.
Nice, awesome.
Oh, that is awesome. So if there's someone or a company that is interested in the Southern Michigan outdoors and want to engage with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just contact me at Region 2, either through easiest thing would be our Southern Michigan Outdoors website. Right now, there's an email link on there. They'll come to me and engage. We're actually now to the point, even though we've been working on this initiative for basically going on 4 years, of now we can start moving publicly and what other kind of partnerships can we establish, and we're definitely interested in that. And I think this will be a big year, 2025, and kind of putting things out there and really elevating the brand and the efforts.
Well, and I think the partnership, obviously, we've been engaging with you from the Accelerate Jackson County side. Obviously, with Ryan and I are both relatively new, right, to Jackson County, and within the last 18 months, 2 years. And I know Ryan's brought a lot of enthusiasm about that from the Experience Jackson side. So, I think it's just another example of these great partnerships when you get people that are all rowing in the same direction, working together on these kinds of things. And I will tell you, I have already co-opted the Southern Michigan Outdoors brand a couple of times, taking that idea of Southern Michigan. We have a fam tour coming up here in a couple of months, and my invitations were like, join us in beautiful Southern Michigan, in the summertime, and so it's an opportunity. So.
Yeah, it really is. And, and I, being from outside Indianapolis, and obviously Indianapolis Motor Speedway racing, being a racing fan, watching NASCAR races in the heyday with Jeff Gordon, Go Central Indiana, from the beautiful Irish Hills of Michigan.
Yes.
I had no idea where the Irish Hills of Michigan were.
Right.
And so you do have these kind of, names that you can grab onto, and really helps kind of place things. And I think that's very important.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of opportunity, even with the companies that we had, Mitchell Golf, Angling AI. I just think there's opportunities there, and maybe there's a way to engage kids and get them interested in keeping that going too, because word of mouth is always the best marketing, right? And so if we can engage those kids in opportunities, I think that's great.
Yeah, and I mean, even purely just from, as we wrap up here, purely on the economic development side, as we start talking about, obviously for this podcast, we're focusing on the manufacturing industry, but when we have 180 plus lakes in Jackson County, and you have this beautiful community that everybody likes to get outdoors, I think of the business development opportunities, because maybe that small business is not starting a rec tech business, but maybe that guy wants to become a fishing guide, right? Or an outfitter or something like that. There are plenty of those opportunities that you could make a good living and be very successful with here in Jackson County. So, well, Jacob, thank you very much for joining us. And we appreciate it, and excited to see what happens with the Southern Michigan Outdoors brand.
All right. Thank you for your
Thank
partnership.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you.
Today we have Chad Pauken from Lomatic. Excited to have you. You want to share a little bit about yourself and about Lomatic?
Yep. Yeah, so I'll start with Lomatic. Business that's been going since 1972. Second generation owner right now, and has grown since that inception in 1972 in a garage in Michigan Center. So the idea of this business came from solving solutions with bakeries, right? And it was slicing. And so Dale Sr., developed the first slicing equipment to help the bakeries automate this process. And so, and since then it's grown from that. And we have, that's our core. Our core is slicing, and then it's grown into packaging. And, we take every opportunity now as a company to try to solve what the bakery's challenges are. And so it can be labor, it could be packaging rates, it can be quality, anything to help them automate, produce better product at more higher rates, more efficiencies, is really what we target right now. And so I started back in 2006, and I remember so my wife was pregnant with our first, and I knew somebody in my career path, and he said, "You gotta go talk to this guy. He's up in Jackson." I'm like, "Okay, great." I'm like, "What do they do?" "Well, they make equipment." I said, "Okay, cool." So I get up there. This is like a Saturday, and I still remember. I get on the floor. It's like everything is packed into this little itty bitty building, and I said, "What? I don't even know what you guys do here." And he said, "Well, we slice buns." And I'm like, "What? Okay." Because, and I have that, and I tell the story a lot because, we don't think about how stuff is processed sometimes. Right. So you've gone to McDonald's tons of times, you've probably eaten Big Macs, and you don't think about how any of that comes from the ingredients to the wrapper. And so to think and to understand that process is super interesting. And so, this business it's hamburger buns, it's hot dog buns, it's flatbreads, it's English muffins, it's bagels. It's anything in this bun range, artisan, ciabatta breads, hoagie rolls. So you name it from outside of the bread industry, we have the capabilities of, designing and building and solving those slicing problems.
Well, and thank God for your company and for Industries as a guy who eats a lot of carbs,
Yeah.
and particularly in the bread family,
Right.
that you make that possible for
Yeah.
me. So thank you for that.
Right.
I think, hitting on a couple of your points, one of the things that I like the most about being in economic development, and I've been in this career now for going on 20 years, and that thing that you said about people don't think about how it went from the ingredients to them getting a cheeseburger at McDonald's,
Yeah.
right? And every step that occurred between there, between point A and point Z, right?
Yeah.
I love in this career seeing how things are made and following that story,
Yeah.
and it seems like a pretty niche market that you have that Lematic has singled out, right?
It is.
My curiosity to that other point that I was going to make was, is there a story behind how you said 1972,
Yeah.
right? In a garage at Michigan Center, how it came to be that we were going to solve the slicing for the bakery industry, how that became that niche.
Yeah. So I know I've heard the story.
Okay.
And I believe that Dale Sr. worked for Dawn Foods,
Okay.
right? And so
Makes
there
sense.
was a connection to the industry at that point.
Makes sense.
And, again, when you're in that industry and you're an entrepreneur and you're a problem solver, you're seeing things that are out there. And again, some of the most successful inventors are the ones that have been inside of whatever it is and go, oh, geez, I can do something that makes that better. And they go and they tinker and they change and they fix and poof, they come up with something that changes the path of an industry. So,
Olivia, I gotta say that was a happy accident that's how that came about from that question to tie that into one of our other iconic companies in Jackson. I would like to say I planned that out and it was a happy accident. But I'll take the win where I can get it. So.
right.
Yeah. Well,
good.
in my experience, even Gemma's worked with youth for a long time, and the story is always, no matter what you see, no matter what you do, it's been manufactured some way, somehow, including this jackhammer that y'all
Sure.
are going to hear in the background,
Sure.
right? So everything has been manufactured in some way,
Yep.
right? Whether it's the machine that makes it or, it's
Yeah.
all manufactured.
And even past the manufacturing process, everything else has to go into it. You have sales and you have marketing and you have accounting and you have procurement and logistics and you have everything. And in our case, I mean, we're relatively small. I mean, we got 52 people, but we do everything from the beginning to the end. So we have field service people on the back end of this process that are traveling all over the world, troubleshooting, helping, upgrading, fixing, installing the equipment. So for the youth, when you think about what the possibility is, and you say manufacturing, it's not just out there with the drill press putting a hole into a piece of metal. There's a ton more that goes into it. So
Well, I love that. You use that phrase, we've got people all over the world, right? So maybe can we explore that a little bit? So if you have people working on things all over the world,
Sure.
that probably means you've sold all over the world. Then.
Yeah, all over. I mean, it's everywhere. Our market is worldwide, and it's crazy to think and know that so many people have never heard of Lematic, right? They don't know what we do. They don't know that the slicing of their hot dog bun that they just had over the weekend came possibly from one of our pieces of equipment. But we're worldwide, and so we've been we're shipping to Saudi Arabia, we're shipping to Japan, we're shipping to India. We have resources in Brazil. So we are both foreign and domestic. It's I I would say it's probably close to a 50-50 mix, maybe 55-45. I mean, it's very broad.
Well,
So, and that's honestly, that's what helped keeps us stable. So when maybe the domestic market is a little bit slow and not wanting to put in capital equipment, the foreign market is booming, and so you're taking up sales from that area.
and I think that's one of the stories that when Olivia and I started going down this podcast route and started talking about this idea, one of the things that I have always wanted to stress is that with these products that are made here in Jackson County, we make them here in Jackson County because we make them better than anybody else.
Right.
And we ship them all over the world.
Yep.
And so you can, as a young person who's going through, getting exposed to manufacturing through a program with ShopRats, or was going through one of Olivia's programs, that you can go work for Lematic, you can go work for any of our other companies here that are exporting or that are manufacturing around the world.
Yep.
And you can still work for a Jackson County company, or you can still work and go work and live and run a food plant for Dawn Foods and still be a Jackson County person.
No,
right?
absolutely.
I think it's just one of the cool things about a community like Jackson.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we continue to maintain keeping the youth and the current residents here, right? I mean, I think you have to give them something to want to stay for, because there are a lot of other opportunities, a lot of other metropolitan areas. I mean, Grand Rapids, I mean, people just shoot up there. But you're right, there's a lot of stuff here, and as much as we do to sort of, I think, facilitate all of that to everybody, there's still a huge void of not knowing. I mean, I can't tell you the last interview that came in that said, "Yeah, I've heard of you," and it's like it's crazy, And so again, I think part of that's probably known. I mean, in terms of you can't just get a generic name out there all the time from every avenue, unless you're on TikTok, right? Hitting somebody's role that somehow got you.
Are you
hooked in.
running the Lematic TikTok channel? Is that what I heard?
Well, we almost need to. It's crazy. I mean, it's a funny story about that. I got hooked on watching Landman.
Oh,
right?
Who didn't?
Well,
fantastic.
But I got it from these feeds, and I'm like, it's a 20-minute clip, right? 20 minutes. I'm like, by one time I'm like, man, I guess I'm gonna order, or I'm gonna subscribe to Paramount, and I'm gonna watch this. So that is the trick to get anything in front of anybody at these days.
And that was one of my goals when I started talking about podcasts is, most of the manufacturers don't even know what each other do, right?
Sure.
Right.
And so we've got to do a better job at engaging everybody on what resources we have right here.
Yeah.
And so, that was one of my goals is what are those resources? How do we help each other? But more importantly, again, we come back to those youth, and that's our future workforce, and we need to keep them here.
Yep.
And what better way to do that than to showcase the resources and opportunities that we have right here?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when we talk about youth, we know that the bright and shiny, exciting things are important to them, right? So what kinds of automation or Industry 4.0 techniques are you guys looking at or using? And
Yeah. Well, I think it's been challenging for some of us smaller manufacturers to be able to do the things we want to do based on the amount of money that these projects cost. And so, yeah, we have a laundry list of things, if I could snap my fingers, we're into and we're doing it. But we've got to walk our way through. And so when you talk about 3D printing, right, that's fun, exciting stuff. When you talk about automation with robots, whether it's welding, my vision right now is a 5-axis CNC that can just make any one-off part we need to, right, with an auto loader and running lights out, because I feel like that's our opportunity to grow, like, sustainably. And that is the fun stuff. But those things right now, I mean, it's kind of similar to like, I just was looking at I had a Toyota that had a service call on it. So I'm at the Toyota dealership. They want to sell me a new one. I was asking about the hybrid. Well, they mark up the hybrid engines by like $5,000 or so, right? And so the time to pay that back off and actually, make the money on it is long. And I think we experience the same thing. The grants that are out there for these projects, they're not enough. And so it takes us longer to get to those points. So, and we know that we're a part of that solution to create that environment for these kids to have the shiny stuff to work on and look at. And that's on the manufacturing floor. I mean, you go up into the engineering department. I mean, they're fully automated with SolidWorks and automation and simulation with that type of stuff. Our CAM part of the manufacturing process, same thing. We're testing with Fusion 360 and some CAM AI type stuff to sort of infiltrate that. Ultimately, we look for some of these younger kids to come in and sort of just say, hey, what about doing this? Or let me try this. Or let me show you how to, because I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of like, it scares me sometimes in terms of knowing the ins and outs of these things. So.
Yeah, and you bring in a 22-year-old who just went through Olivia's program, and
Right.
they're going to challenge you, right? Because they've
Yep.
been learning on the newest and the latest and the
Yep.
greatest and the best, and
Yep.
so yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, that's part of growing old though for us, right?
True.
So,
Very true.
question: the machinery that you make, the equipment that you make, do you have like a standard product line, or is everything custom to the customer? I would imagine there's probably a both and component to that, or is everything a one-off that they say, I've got this much space and this is what the volume is and what I need? And
That's a trick question.
okay, good. Which is what we try to do. So, yeah.
So I mean, you'll get a different answer from all departments within
Fair enough.
within our company. I look at it this way, because I call standard, 70 to 80%. So if 70 to 80% of our equipment, 60% for that matter, right? 6 out of 10 come through with the same voltage, the same options, the same slicing options on it. I call those standards.
Okay.
I see more standards. What happens is that when we take an order, we do customize it to the bakery. And sometimes the bakery might have a different elevation height. They may be doing a product that has a different slice requirement. So again, we do like band slicing. We do hinge slicing, that would be for bagels and hot dog buns, and we do top slicing. So there could be some options there. Depending on their customer requirements, there could be different seal configurations. So their package that has 36, it could be sealed 4 different sections so that it
Okay.
kept 3 of them sealed when you open the one. So there are options from that standpoint. But, and it's hard because, if you're a niche, then you're charging a lot of money for your equipment. But we're not a niche, and we're offering a lot of options. So it becomes a balance. And so that's why I kind of look at the 60% rule. Like if you can identify 6 out of 10 that are just normal things that come through,
Gotcha.
deal with the 40%. So that's kind of how it goes. And then we can go all the way from that standard product line into fully, from scratch design. They need a conveyor system to convey their stuff from here to here, and we'll design and develop that.
Gotcha.
And build it. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face in the food industry and safety? Maybe it's quality or.
Some of the biggest challenges. So, I mean, I think from my viewpoint, most of our challenges are internal, right? I mean, if you were to come over to our shop, you'd see our equipment and say, "Whoa, that's complex," because it is. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's sequencing, there's PLC programming, there's everything's got to be in motion together for it to work. But if you walked upstream and you've seen the parts and the pieces that were made to go into it, you'd be like, that's not that complicated. And so the challenge is really, and I use this analogy about lining up, 10,000 marbles to get through that one little hole. And that's how the equipment goes together. And so internally, you're going, we go through, changing over from different people, new people, and it takes a while to get up to speed. And so the newness is hard. Our processes are not bulletproof, so it's not like there's a black book to go through and say, oh, page 4 is what we get when we get to this point, right? It doesn't work that way. And so internally, I think we're dealing with a lot of that. And then externally, it's a market that is very unpredictable. So we've got two sides of the market that we deal with. One is aftermarket, which is repair, new parts, stuff like that, upgrade kits. And then we've got an OEM market, which is really, new projects going in to add capacity, add product sources to their customers. And that part of the business is probably the most challenging because you can't put your finger on it. You could go, 6, 8, 10 months just really gangbusters with too much work, and then you can go 5, 6 without anything. And so that fluctuates. And we've tried internally to balance that with our aftermarket sales and all that stuff, but I think that volatility is probably the most challenging.
I love that analogy of lining up 10,000 marbles that have to go through the same hole, right? Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that when you challenge people's perception of what manufacturing is, right? When you get past your grandfather's idea of what manufacturing is because they worked in a dirty manufacturing plant, right, in the 60s, right? Versus what our manufacturers look like today. Yeah. And the accuracy and the tolerances that are allowed, right? You have to make 10,000 marbles go through that same hole that's that big accurately 100% of the time without failing, because that failure costs you money, it costs the customer money, and then they stop buying from you, right?
That's exactly right.
I love that analogy, and I've never heard it put that way, but I am absolutely going to steal it, and I will give you credit for it every single time.
Send me some royalties.
Really what I'm trying to do is figure out how to get free bread out of this deal, right? So switching gears kind of back when we talked about you are exporting around the country, around the world. Obviously, an issue that's been in the news lately that we have talked about pretty much on most every one of our episodes of this podcast in 2025 has been tariffs, right?
Tariffs?
Yeah. I haven't heard of those. Yeah. Right. Is that something that, have you heard anything from customers? Is it a concern for you?
So, ultimately us, sending our stuff out, right? The cost on that end is, changing, but it's more stable. It's the stuff coming in, and a lot of, most of our products that we buy are from the U.S. And so, with that said, what we see suppliers that we buy product that maybe not all of the product is from the U.S. Right. They're buying a chip from Taiwan and this from India. And so those tariff prices are starting to roll in. I don't know. We're monitoring it, right? Very heavy. But at the end of the day, I'm anticipating that this is, this will die out.
It's a blip, right?
Yeah. I hope. We expect.
I think we all hope for it, right?
Yeah.
I was, concerned of the retaliatory tariffs, right? Sure. That inevitably are going to come, and we're seeing people put them on, right? And so
none of this can really last forever. It can't really sustain itself for a while. Right. And so what we're doing is just really monitoring the situation and making sure it's not a drastic impact. Like, we can't do much on contracts that we've already taken. Right. Contracts that we do take, we'll do some assessment and make sure that we're, everybody's covered on what we need to. So,
Awesome. Are there any upcoming projects or technologies that you guys are looking at that you want to talk about, or
well,
that you can talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about a few things. Like this is a really crazy year for us. So typically the baking industry runs, international shows off years of themselves. COVID has thrown a wrench into that, and it piled them up. So we have which usually happens every 3 years, an international baking show. So we're going there. We leave Friday of next week, and the show starts Sunday of next week in Dusseldorf. And so, yeah, we have some new equipment there and some new technology, and our goal is to our main base customer wise are the major industrial bakeries, and these are places that are shooting out. I mean, you're talking about 1,000 buns a minute coming down these lines, running 24/7. So these bakeries are running stuff to McDonald's and Arby's and Burger Kings and the fast foods type stuff. So and again, I talked about the inconsistency in the OEM market. So trying to get into some of the other smaller bakeries, there are tons of smaller bakeries. Go anywhere. I mean, I don't care where you go. You can buy a hamburger anywhere and wonder, well, where did that come from? And it may have come from a super small bakery that's, 2.5 hours from here. And so we're trying to get some products into that market so that they're a little bit more easy on the entry level for the cost, and they help those smaller bakeries put some automation in their bakery. So it's bagging, it's slicing, we've got some upgrade kits that are helping our sealing technology. So those things are in the works. We're also working with a partner to try to develop some equipment to help be prepared for when they call and say we can't hire people. And so the robotic automation is there, it's coming. It's a matter of time. And so we're trying to balance, our own operations with that research and development to be prepared for that, because, the people that have those solutions are going to win really big. And if you can think about 1,000 buns a minute coming down the line, they're coming off at just crazy rates, and there are people sorting this stuff into lanes. So you've got that part of the process, and then after it's packaged, it's got to go into a tray. It's got to go into some dunnage to get into a truck and out to a bakery. So those opportunities for us to automate and offer some solutions are definitely in the works. So, awesome. And then on top of that, come September, there's a show in Las Vegas, which is the International Baking Show here, stateside. Awesome. So, yeah, there is a lot of stuff going on.
So lots of opportunities to connect with you for potential customers. So that's great.
Yep.
Is there anything else that we haven't asked you that you would like to tell our listening audience about Lamatic, or the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, www.lamatic.com is the website. And, I really offer at any opportunity that I get, if anybody is interested in coming and seeing what's going on, you just have to connect with me. And then, try to set something up. I do that with the kids, whether it's at the Career Center or through you and JAMA. I need to get connected with some of the superintendents, because one of the things that I do want to do, and I've mentioned this a couple times, is have the impromptu, it's not, if we've got equipment that's like halfway built, like it's not that cool yet, right?
Yeah.
So when you get to the point that it's pumping out packages and people are testing it, that's when it's like, hey, we're ready. If you want to bring a group over to see what we actually do and how it happens, do it. So yeah, I open the door at any point in time. Anybody wants to, connect with me or see what's going on there. Anytime. Yep.
All right, but I have one more question before we close out, because before the show we were talking about, is anybody going to fact check me?
Yeah.
So I have to throw this out there. As I'm hearing 1,000 buns a minute, I'm thinking, okay, well, how much bread and carbs are we eating?
Consuming?
Yeah.
I don't have the answer to that, but it is a lot. And,
67 countries worth of machinery since 1972.
Yeah, right.
Divided by.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think about, I can't even tell you how many systems are out there because we're not the only supplier of these
Right.
systems, right? So all of these bakeries that are supplying, and it's crazy when you think about the amount of consumption that happens at those types of rates. Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Darn it, I was really hoping for that fact check.
So I will say, I'll do a little drop plug. I know that my colleague Matt Phillips has a stat that he did say out about consumption of the world's bun products, but I can't recall the number.
Well,
and it was astonishing. It is just astonishing when you
So
think about it.
here's what you can do. You can look it up, and then
Yeah.
we will put it in the
Yeah.
show description
Oh,
notes
I'll
when
dump
we
it-
post our
I'll-
episode. So.
Perfect. I'll dump it in there.
Well, Chad, thank you very much. We
very much.
appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me
Loved
on.
learning more about Lamatic and how you're supporting manufacturing industry here in Jackson County. So
Yeah,
thank
terrific.
you.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks.
And welcome back to Manufacturing Matters Jackson. Today, we have two special guests. We have Wesley Turner from Mitchell Golf and Josh Clark from Angling AI. Wes, would you like to start with an introduction of yourself and about Mitchell Golf, and then we'll move to you, Josh.
Yeah, my name is Wesley Turner. I've been with Mitchell Golf for about 9 years going on. We are the gold standard in club building and repair equipment. Any OEM you could think of uses our equipment to build their clubs. It's trickled down into the PGA Tour, has stuff set up with our equipment outside of the tour. Now the hobbyists have it in their homes. So pretty much anyone who's really into golf knows about Mitchell Golf and probably has some form of our equipment. Yeah.
Well, I'm Josh Clark. I am the owner of Angling AI, and we make premium aluminum fishing lure molds that we manufacture here in Jackson, Michigan, and then sell on our website, anglingai.com.
Nice. Josh, we've had some work that we've done together in the past, and one of the things that was fascinating to me when we did a yet to be released video on Angling AI was your story. So maybe dive into a little bit, if you could, on the story behind how you got to starting Angling AI.
Well, it first started out of, a little bit of adversity, which is what am I going to do now after I lost my job as a mechanical engineer in 2009 during the economic downturn. At the same time, I was pursuing a professional fishing career, and I was making lures from molds that I bought to help save money when I was, trying to accomplish that professional fishing career. My thought process was, after losing my job, to try to maintain the salary that I had to move away from home or figure something else out. At the same time, I was making baits, and I'm like, I really needed this one bait. Then nobody made a mold for it, and I literally said, I can draw it. I just have to learn how to machine it. And from that point, I liquidated my 401k, which was pretty meager at the same time. I found someone to help build me a custom CNC machine. And a year and a half later, I made my first mold. And that was back in 2010. And I set up shop in a 16-foot room in my basement. And I put my head down and worked really hard. Took every dollar I had and just kept dumping it back into the business itself, which grew a lot of financial maturity for myself. And it's continued to innovate. I learned out that I had some really great ideas, and sharing those ideas with customers that saw the advantage of that, because really a lot of my molds and what I do enhances their fishing prowess, so to speak. It gives them the ability to tailor and do the things that they want, not just deal with what they find on the shelf at Cabela's or Bass Pro or anything like that, and they can do whatever they want. With that, we were flying into COVID, and most typically COVID was very horrible for people, except for people in the recreation industry. and the fishing industry grew 40% as a whole. So my current customers that were buying my products and selling them couldn't manufacture the baits that they wanted from my molds fast enough, so they needed more. And then at the same point, a lot of people that were contemplating making their own fishing lures with my molds thought it would be a great time since they were sent home and they were given a little stimulus money to help them out with that. And we grew exponentially. And by exponentially, it was 300% 3 years over. And the business swallowed me whole. Luckily, I kept my head above water. And from, moving out of my basement to a facility that's right next to the new JAMA and Shop Rat Foundation, which was 3,000 square foot. I now have a 16,000 square foot facility in downtown Jackson. I have 8 employees, 11 machining centers, and one of them has a robot in front of it, and we just bought our second robot. We just grew. Originally, I just wanted to make something cool. Now I've built a business, and I'm kind of like that serial entrepreneur now, like that just wants to keep growing and see where we can go with it. And fortunately, I get to work in the outdoor field and put my passion towards something and actually make some money for it and also provide for my employees.
It doesn't hurt that you have an excuse to go fishing all the time too, right?
That helps a lot.
Yeah. I think that is the classic, like, successful entrepreneur story to hear, right? And that businesses hope for, right? To be able to, bootstrap it yourself, and you take that risk and that scary part of liquidating your 401k, as meager as it may have been, like that's it, right?
Yeah.
There's no coming back from that. And so if it doesn't succeed, and so hearing that story, like I love that it's such an inspiration to hear that. And then, if the stars align with COVID and the explosive growth of outdoor recreation, and I'm sure that's the same story for the golf industry.
The same over here.
But
yeah.
I love to hear those kinds of stories, and it's such a success story, and it's the kind of thing that we always talk about in from an economic development standpoint, right? Which is, how do you help a guy like Angling AI grow that into being the next Dawn Foods, right? The next Alro, these historic businesses that are headquartered here in Jackson, to be able to build that next big story. And so that, you employed yourself, and now you're employing 8 people, that in 50 years, how many people are you employing, right? So I love that. So, yeah.
And Wes, why don't you tell us about Mitchell Golf, how they got started?
So our current owners have had Mitchell Golf for going on almost 10 years. It was originally owned in Ohio, and our old owner did a lot of out the doors machining work where we were just outsourcing it, and I believe they couldn't keep up, so they were selling and wanted to sell to somebody that could do a lot of the machining work in-house. And so a friend of our old owner linked them up with the Dobbins family, who owned Caster Concepts and several other machining businesses in the area. And in fact, our owner, Andrew, first purchase out of college he bought was a Mitchell Golf machine like 25 years ago. So maybe 20 or 15, depending on how old he is.
We can edit that part out for you.
Edit that out. 10 years. So the friend linked those two up together, and it was just a match made to be. And we've been in Albion for going on 9 years now. So we have several machining companies in the area that make all of our parts, and we do pretty much everything within Jackson and Albion.
So you said a Mitchell Golf machine, and you mentioned that OEMs have them. So tell me exactly what a Mitchell Golf machine is.
So our claim to fame are our loft and lie machines, which read the front angle of a golf club and the side angle of a golf club. And throughout your whole set, you want to have you want a 1/2 degree in between your lie angle. You want 4 degrees between your loft angles between your sets. So our machines can dial in each club exactly where they need to be, which is what tour players do, and which is what is real appealing to the amateur golfers. and it helps make them better as well. And it's very important to have your angles right on your clubs. And a lot of the times when you receive them brand new, they're not perfect to your swing. So that's what is really appealing about our stuff is you can get it, read your clubs, find the specs of your clubs, lengths, angles, weights, and dial them all into your fitted swing that
Okay.
you've probably got fitted for or something.
So you don't take like a blank stock piece of metal and machine it into a
Into
head.
a golf club. Nope.
You take a head and dial it in to be perfect for my terrible golf swing.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. So we should probably talk then.
Yeah, we can. We'll get together after this for
I
sure.
don't know I have the funds in the Accelerate Jackson County budget to justify that.
I've already been
but,
picturing where some of our machines can sit in here.
man.
You could just get one
man
of our
after
machines.
my own heart. So there you go.
I'm just not going to attempt to swing the golf club.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go golfing and fishing in one day. It'll
That's
be great.
right. So one of the things I like to ask the question, I think it applies to both of you, is there has to be competition out there for your businesses, right? How do you differentiate yourself? Like, what is your competitive advantage to why someone would go with Angling AI to solve that need to to pour their own molds, or to pour their own baits or lures, or Mitchell Golf for that example, for that?
Well, with us, we know for sure we have the tour grade standard strongest equipment on the market. We want something that's stronger than the golf club we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
All of our stuff is CNC'd, machined, welded, black oxide coated, all in Albion. And a lot of our competitors are more aluminum rod systems. Ours are precision bearings and rails, where your readings are going to come back and be perfect every time. Other competitors we have aren't that accurate as we are. And our stuff literally lasts a lifetime. We don't have many repetitive sales. We'll sell once and we're done. In 25 years, they're still using the same
Wow.
equipment.
awesome.
So yeah, that's what really stands us out from our competitors for sure.
That's great.
Yeah.
Quite a few things that sets my company apart from my competitors. A lot of it begins with my former job titles. I was a project manager and project engineer for a little company called Siemens. And
Little company.
Little company. And we used to build really big buildings, and I was in charge of, the critical airflow environments, because most of them usually were dedicated around critical airflow laboratory research and development firms like at Pfizer, U of M, stuff like that. So I was brought into the work industry with this very high bar for creating or making, and everything I did had to be more than normal, right? So taking that work concept I'd never lost, I came from the fishing industry as a user, and then learned how to be a machinist. Most of my competitors are machinists, and they don't have like any clue of like what a bait should do, right? So I take my perfectionism and my mechanical ability plus my knowledge of approaching to be a professional fisherman. I came pretty close, and then I don't just make the molds. I test the molds. I make sure that the baits are coming out right. But then after that, I literally take those baits out on the water and I make sure they perform the way they're supposed to perform. And that really sets me apart. We're known for the highest quality in the world. We've succumbed. We have the world market share for our little niche industry. It's not a great big industry, but it's big enough to support my habits, I guess, if you want to call it that. But that's what it is like the pride. And then, in manufacturing, I developed a process to where all my operators, to where my management team and every single one of them, there's a process there, and they're doing it the exact same way I did it when I did everything by myself, which kept that standard well above the bar. And we just carry through that, and we just maintain and just keep growing and finding new innovative things to make. Every time we develop a new product, it's a nice boost in revenue. I call it printing money. So that's where we just we just keep making more and doing more, and we keep that bar and we keep that intensity and that quality level right there. And then, just utilizing and then always getting back out on the water is so rejuvenating. It's kind of like I'm so fired up when I get back from fishing to like make the next best thing because I get that kind of feedback. And then we use that in social media platforms, and we get a lot of feedback from our audience on that social media platform. And it's like, oh my gosh, we got to have that. So, I mean, a lot of things that really tie into what I do to set myself apart. It all culminates into one great big thing.
You mind if I ask a follow-up? So one of the things I think that's interesting with that is obviously from the Mitchell standpoint, you guys are selling pieces of machinery so that people can customize exactly what they want, right? Whereas on the angling AI side, you're going out and you're coming up with the design of the piece of the lure, right? And then machining out that piece of aluminum and selling them. Do you ever have customers that come to you and say, I like this lure, but I wish the tail was here, or I wish it was a half a centimeter longer, or any of that stuff? Do you do custom stuff like that where customers can give a feedback and then you do something custom for the next guy?
I originally started doing that, and it's one of the things that kind of helps solidify that to myself that I was meant to do this, because I struggled for probably the first 5 to 6 years. And to get to your point, every time I needed something, the phone would ring. I didn't always get what I wanted, but every time I needed something, the phone would ring. And I did custom work. And what I had found out in that business model is that I stayed stagnant. Okay. And it was very glaringly apparent that I kept having customers saying, do you have anything new you can put on the website? Do you have anything new? Do you have anything new? I went for a whole year without putting a new product on my website. And all I did was pay the bills with the custom work. And one day I said, you know what? I've got an idea. I've had an idea. I've been meaning to do it. And I did it. And to date, it is our #1 selling product of all time. And it's surpassed over $1 million in lifetime sales. And at that point, I said, okay, the business models, how many can we sell? Not, because it takes time to develop a product. If it takes me a week or two to develop a product and I get to sell 1 or 2 molds, that's great for the person that has a mold. But it took me less than 3 days to develop the product that I wanted to, and I've sold thousands and thousands of them. So that business model right there is what pointed that arrow north for us on the revenue standpoint. And granted, there's quite a few people that weren't happy because I do exceptional work, and they didn't like the fact that they couldn't get that anymore.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I needed to build a business that was sustainable.
Yeah, and again, I love that. That's the evolution of an entrepreneur, right? Like you figure out what the road is that you have to do to be successful that provides you with being a sustainable business,
That's
right?
correct.
And so I love that. So thank you for indulging me.
Yeah. And let's go back to Wes on that original question. What makes Mitchell Golf stand out amongst the competitors?
Oh, I mean, other than lasting just a lifetime, we will do custom work sometimes for people. We'll do custom colors of their business and logos on their machines. From earlier, like I said, we can reuse the equipment. It's going to come back to the same thing every time. It's going to last a lifetime. I can use it. You can use it. It's going to say the same thing. Which really stands us out as far as legitimacy and accuracy goes.
Do you have golfers, tour players that you guys sponsor through Mitchell Golf, or the question for you too, right?
Not necessarily. Another great thing we do is once a month we have a class on club building and repair and fitting. So this is a worldwide class. We in Albion twice a month going on this year. We have our max is 6 people. They'll come for all week, Monday through Friday, stay in town. Monday through Wednesday is club building and repair. So I teach angles, weights, how to put one together, take one apart, reshaft, adapters, grips, everything you can imagine. Thursday and Friday is fitting. So they'll come in, learn how to be fit. It's all tied together with everything they learn the first 3 days. And once a month or every class will have at least like one or two from like Iceland or Hong Kong or, and it's just once, there's like one or two students every month that'll come from literally across the planet, Australia, to learn from us and how to build clubs and fit. And we think that's pretty awesome. But usually it's like the biggest mix of people you can think of. We'll have like one from California, one from Maine, like just we're summoning people from across the whole globe to come learn. And really we're teaching them how to use our equipment, but also how to build clubs and fit for them as well. And they're going back to start their own businesses most of the time for club repair and fitting as well, and using our equipment to do so as well. So all across the board, we're helping the golf game is our goal, really.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for Angling AI, we're an e-commerce platform. And I have gone down the road. I have been involved with professional fishermen that are very well known throughout the country, some of the top ones in the country. And putting my name on their shirt, I've yet to develop one revenue dollar from a professional fisherman.
Sure.
Right? Where we live and breathe is content. And content for us is very critical on that key platform, and through a couple of different ways. One of the biggest successes was a gentleman named Chris Jones, a good friend of mine now. Met him about 6 years ago, and he said, I just bought one of your molds. You care if I do a review on it on my YouTube channel? He's like, I got 3,600 subscribers, and I'm like, yeah, Donald, do what you want with it. It's like, we built a relationship from that point on to where Chris did a great job. He runs this YouTube channel called World's Worst Fishing. Shameless plug. Go check him out. Because at 6-7 years ago, he had 3,600 subscribers. Now he's over 110,000 subscribers. Wow. He has exclusive rights to the world premiere videos, so to speak, or the releases for our new products. And has been on the YouTube side of things, has really been our voice. That is we've generated a lot of revenue just after showing people how to do that. And also we have our own Facebook page with over 6,000 members on it that strictly uses our products. So we've developed our own community, right? And then some of my other good friends, because everybody that I get involved with, they become a friend, because it's all about becoming, just making great relationships. Some of my friends are some of the best bait makers in the world, like when it comes to artisticness and stuff like that. We collaborate and we do things and say, here, I'm going to send you a couple molds and do your thing with it, and then post it on the page. Then everybody sees it, and the first question is where'd you get that mold? Because they want to do what they just did, right? So that really helps out. And then outside of that, obviously as an e-commerce platform, I made a decision 2 years ago, we're going to be a full-on e-commerce platform. So we're going to do the digital marketing like the big boys, and we have been. And we've partnered with Agile Growth Shop here in Jackson. They are the same owners, Ken Seneth and Brandon Markin, who own the Lean Rocket Lab. They also own Agile Growth Shop, and they are my digital media company that helps push where we go from there, because we are in the process. As like I said, we have the world market share. We need to make more new customers. We need to make it grow, and that's where we're at, is getting content out there, showing people what we can do, educating them on what it is, and moving forward from there. So sponsorship wise, you would think that one of the best bass fishermen in the world would be the greatest thing, but no, it's everyday. It's everyday people that just sit in their garage and make baits and just create wonderful things.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So I have another question, and that is, do either of you use any of the AI or any Industry 4.0, and has it helped you grow? If you're using it, we'll start with Wes.
We have been known to use ChatGPT for things. It's just helped me, as I don't know, I guess as far as the business goes, but just to get my smaller tasks done, I run our social media as well. Metro Golf Co. on Instagram or anything, but maybe some captions you see will be done with some AI type programs. Just, hey, this is a video of me building a club for the class. Make a caption for it, and it'll hashtags. And I mean, really, I'd probably spend 30, 40 minutes just coming up with a clever caption.
Right.
Right. So stuff like that, or if like inventory, we've used it for like, hey, this is what we've used. We have several hundred parts. So, hey, these are how much we've used in the last 6 months. Maybe what is a good reorder point for some of these parts type thing. And it's really helped us with that. That's my answer.
Perfect.
Kind of the same thing that Wes just said. Using some of the AI to create content really helps out quite a bit instead of just thinking about good things. We use that quite a bit. And regarding the Industry 4.0, last year we were a recipient of a $25,000 grant for implementing a new technology as a small business. We incorporated, a robot that went in front of the machine. And so we were able to capitalize on the full amount that the Industry 4.0 had provided for us. In fact, a lot of it ties into so much more. And with JAMA, like without knowing JAMA, I probably wouldn't have known some of the Elrow people, some of the Lean Rocket people that kind of came through that just culminated into where we are. So with the Industry 4.0, we're still dipping our toes in it. There's some programs out there that we could look at that like maybe helps our manufacturing, but like it's when you got 8 people, 4 operators, couple, 1 admin and some managers, some of it's a little bit daunting to implement, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, how we still are looking into it. I guess we're going to put it that way. Like we're just still dipping our toes into the Industry 4.0, but overall, the AI that we use and then having just the connections is first and foremost the first step into making our manufacturing selves that much better.
So one of the points of this podcast for Olivia and I, when we started just in the ideation phase of this, let alone when we started recording this, it's not only to celebrate the manufacturing that we have here in Jackson County, Southeast Michigan, South Central Michigan, depending on what state agency calls us, depending on what region we're in, I guess. But it was also as a support for manufacturing, right? And so you mentioned that Industry 4.0 grant. Was that from Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center, from MMTC?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I think that is an interesting tool, and I think it's something that a lot of our manufacturers have taken advantage of, whether it's that or, our first episode, we talked about going pro with Michigan Works Southeast, but there are always opportunities like that, and there are always a ton of businesses in this community that aren't taking advantage of those programs, right? And so I'm glad that you brought that up because it's there are those opportunities out there, and I think in the show description for this episode, we'll make sure we put a link to MMTC on this so that people can find out more information about that, because I'm hoping that they hear this and see that that's an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I've been in contact with Katie Berkey from Southwest Michigan Works and looking at going pro, doing some things. I take on a lot of responsibilities by myself, so I don't always get to act upon like a lot of the things. Do I look into this program here, or do I sit down for the next 4 days and try to make the next new product? And usually the next new product wins. Yep. So I'm working on that. And I'm trying to think, but JAMA's been, when did I meet you? Olivia, 2016, you came into my little shop. I might have just bought my first Haas, right? I had 2 little hand things, and I kind of feel like you and I at the same time have really blossomed since then, because, you came in, and I don't remember your position then, but I'm super proud of your role and where you've taken JAMA, and I've seen JAMA itself grow exponentially and to be where you're at now. So that's just been wonderful, and I'm so happy to have, to know you and have you like in my court, so to speak.
Yeah.
So if I always need something or if I can help out, Olivia's always someone that's in my back pocket.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that. And I didn't even know Angling AI existed when I came as training coordinator. I think you were looking at SolidWorks training.
Yes.
And yeah, watching you grow, I mean, it's amazing. And that's one of the perks of my job is being able to see that and see the smaller companies grow and become like what you are today. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. So, kind of calling back to one of the things you guys talked about, I mean, throughout these questions, you've kind of addressed some of the success stories, right? And I mean, you talked about the classes of, people coming in, that you've got people from Iceland, Australia coming in to your shop in Albion, right? To learn about how to use the machinery that you have, but they're learning how to build a golf club, right? So the question I have about that is, so you sell the machinery, right? You're selling aluminum molds, right?
Correct.
For people. Does Mitchell or does Angling, are you also selling everything are you a one-stop shop that if I want to pour a lure, I want to manufacture my own lure, that I can go to Angling AI and I can get everything that I need? Same way with Mitchell Golf. If I want to start building golf clubs, I can buy the machine to make it perfect for me. But do you carry some of that other stuff? Or is that
Well, my answer is yes and no. And one of the ways that we want to increase our customer, our customer base, we created a kit, which is you can purchase this kit, and it's an all-in-one. I have everything I need to make a bait. Originally back in 2018, again in the building that is literally right next to the new JAMA building is a company called Dead On Plastics, and I was at the very beginning of that company. There was myself and two other partners that started Dead On Plastics, which was the rest. Everybody that buys a mold that wants to make a bait, they have to buy the materials. Like you're gonna buy a cupcake sheet, but now you got to go buy the stuff to make the cupcakes, right? They sell all the stuff to make the cupcakes. That company from day one was profitable, and during COVID, it too blew up exponentially. And I found myself a year and a half later working 2 full-time jobs. And my decision was to, stay in one of them. And one of them I got to keep everything, and the other one I had split 3 ways, right? So here in Jackson, let's just say there is everything you need as a one-stop shop.
Okay.
And yeah, they're doing some 7-digit revenues annually. With the plastic side as well. So we have the resources right here in Jackson for anybody that's interested in making their own soft plastic fishing lures. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump between the 2 buildings.
I just think of it as the, kind of that evolution of Amazon, right? Like Amazon started out as a bookseller, right? So I remember buying off of Amazon and buying books off of Amazon. And then slowly it became, you could buy books and you could buy the next best thing. And then you buy the next thing. And then next thing you know, you buy everything you could ever possibly want, including groceries off of Amazon, right?
Yep.
And so I was just curious if that was part of the model. So
Yeah, same thing here. We have each student has a workbench per se in our studio, but we sell pretty much everything that's in the workbench as well. Drill bits, epoxy, the acetone bottles, to literally any little accessory we suggest you use in the build, we probably also sell or make as well. There's some things that we've discontinued. We maybe had 8 full shelves of this pull and pack inventory that we call it, that has maybe went down to 4 over time, just because you can't compete with some things. But anything we make or can help our customer with, we try to sell as well and make it a one-stop. Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I think we could probably sit here all day and chat about outdoor rec. But I want to thank you both for joining Keith and I on Manufacturing Matters. For closing, if anybody wants to reach out to you, how do they do that? Wes?
For us, we have our website, which is just mitchellgolf.com. We have Instagram, which is mitchellgolfco. And that's probably the 2 best ways to contact us. We have email, which is info@mitchellgolf.com. Other than that.
Perfect.
And for Angling AI, you can go right to the website, and there's an actual number that you can call. you can call and talk to Gary. He's my operations manager, and he's our customer service guy. If you have any questions, if you have any problems, if you have anything that like you need to do, you can call that number on the website, or you can get a hold of us and contact us through our contact us page, hello@anglingai.com, and we can answer all your questions.
Okay. And what was your website again? Is it angling?
Anglingai.com.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate
All
it.
right. Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank you, guys. Thank you.